If you haven't had a chance to read The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, I strongly recommend you add this book to your reading list right away. This first book in the Bloodsworn saga is a well-told story of lethal warbands, vengeance, gods and monsters set in a Viking-style world. This action-driven fantasy with its brutal no-nonsense characters is an absolute must-read. And just look at that gorgeous cover design. Before going any further, let me apologize for all the name butchering that will happen here. And do subscribe to follow this channel for more fantasy book content. Let's start the review with a short summary. 300 years ago, the gods killed each other and shattered the world, battling for vengeance and rivalry. The humans who survived built a new world banning the worship of the dead gods and hunting down all those with divine blood, whom they call the Tainted. Centuries later, the bones of the dead gods are sought out for power and protection while the Tainted are enslaved, controlled by greedy Jarls. Orca, a huntress with a bloody past, lives a content life with her husband and son, but soon her peaceful life is disrupted when children start getting stolen from their village. Varg, a thrall on the run for murdering his master and looking to avenge the death of a sister, gets recruited by a group of famed mercenaries called the Bloodsworn. Elva, a ferocious warrior of the warband the Battle Grim, is proving her worth on the battlefield to show the world that she is more than just a political tool. With the threat of war looming over Vikrith, Orca, Varg, and Elvar are set on a bloody path of glory and heartbreak, a path that leads them right into the legend of the gods. From the first chapter itself, it was clear that this is a grim and bloody story. There are three distinct POV characters here, each on their own separate journey. The whole idea for the book seems fresh. Even with few familiar fantasy elements, the author has made this world feel original and authentic. The writing is clear and concise, the language is not complex, and the story gets straight to the point. John Gwynne does an amazing job in building tension, and his writing style includes more showing than telling. Initially, when the individual storylines were being established, I found the pacing slow for all the POV chapters. By chapter 11 or so, I was a little bored. I was not sure where the story was headed or how everything is connected. But then, the pace started picking up with more chaos and action in the lives of all the three main characters. It did not matter anymore that we were shifting between each storyline, as every chapter going forward was high on energy. The battles are brilliantly gory and realistic. But what stood out the most in action are the hand-to-hand combats. They were very well executed. I have come across stories that have more graphic violence than this, so I think the violence was not overdone here. It was apt for this time period and setting. There is a constant theme of vengeance, repaying debts, and found family running throughout the book. I love the loyalty bond that Orca has with her Wesen companions. Similarly, it was heartwarming to see that Varg has found his place with the Bloodsworn while Elvar has found hers with the Battlegrim. There are constant references to how hopeless and terrible life is for a thrall. True to its setting, battle fame is considered the greatest achievement in this world, but there is an underlying message that there is more to life than just glory in battle. My next point includes spoilers, so please check the timestamps in the description to move to the next section. Other than the revelations at the end, there were very little surprises in the story. I feel there was a little too much foreshadowing, especially about the dragon god being set free and Varg being attainted. There were also plenty of hints about the final betrayal, and many conversations suggested Thorkel and Agnar's deaths. Now, some things did not make sense to me. For example, why were the three sisters guarding the prison chamber below when the Dragonborn were able to release their god from the ground above? And what was the purpose of the new sapling Gwynne when she had to die immediately? I also had trouble with few unknown terms, so I took a break to research a little on the pronunciation, types of weaponry, and so on. The overuse of the word thought cage bothered me because it kept popping up often. I also did not think it was necessary to describe the battle armor or the process of wearing it every time a character steps out. I skipped over some of these to avoid getting distracted. I was not happy that the storylines did not converge till the very end. Other than such minor concerns, I'm very content with the overall package and the dramatic, action-packed conclusion. This stunning, realistic world building shows the passion the author has for the subject. The bones of the dead gods litter the land, influencing the life and layout of this land. Usually, in the first book of any series, we do not get to explore as much of the backdrop as we get to experience here. Since the main characters are in different locations and are constantly traveling, we get to cover a lot of area and see other cultures and perspectives. Other than the exchange of goods, people also use currency in the form of gold, silver, and bronze hack pieces. Having never heard of hack pieces before, I found the idea fascinating. Slavery is rampant in this land. The tainted are at the bottom of the social hierarchy and are treated no better than animals. Women play an active and equal role in the story. They are rulers, witches, warriors, traders, a part of every institution there is. At no point are women looked down upon for their gender. This world is unforgiving and cherishes battle fame over all else. Many disputes can be settled through duels. Moreover, the land is filled with deadly mythical monsters called Vessen that hunt humans but can be repelled using magical runes. Speaking of magic, this feared mystical force is usually wielded by the scholars or by the tainted. I love the idea of a town built inside the skull of Snaka, the serpent god, and its skeletal remains that forms the Boneback Mountains. I was as impressed by the first glimpse of Snackawik just like the characters. The imagery is mind-blowing as were the descriptions of the ancient ash plain where history and legends come to life. The world building is elaborate but not overly so. The lore of the gods is spread evenly across the chapters with many characters sometimes narrating legendary tales that foreshadows the upcoming events. The main characters have been very well fleshed out. All of them are kind of grey, having no hesitation for violence and bloodshed, and yet very likable. Out of the three leads, Orca is my favorite. She is exceptionally strong-willed, a fierce mother, and a retired warrior with an epic, no-nonsense personality. Her combat skills are unmatched. We get many hints of Orca's violent history that keeps her story engaging. She is a very well-crafted character you can easily connect to. I love the monster sidekicks in Orca's story. They prove that there is more to monsters than their need to cause harm to humans. It is the side characters and the Western companions that lighten up the otherwise serious storylines with their antics and fun banter. Varg's chapters would not have been engrossing if her storyline had not featured the Bloodsworn, the famed band of mercenaries. Shunned and abused all his life and now driven by his oath to find his sister's killer, Varg's story is about finding a place to belong where he learns to value brotherhood and cherish his freedom. Elvar is a good character but kind of tropey. Her storyline is the weakest of the three and I do not get why she is a big deal in the Battlegrim. She leads a life of comfort, determined not to be a pawn in her father's politics and sets out to earn a name for herself. Her story did not have an emotional impact on me. The Battlegrim and the Bloodsworn did not seem like two separate warbands. I initially thought that the Battlegrim were a branch of the Bloodsworn. The author has made efforts to make us care for the side characters by giving them different personalities and little backstories here and there, but somehow the two mercenary groups are not very distinct from each other. I do prefer the Bloodsworn to the Battlegrim. The Shadow of the Gods masterfully blends mythology and modern fantasy along with some refreshing ideas added to the mix. It took me around 19 hours to read this book. This is not a light-hearted tale and I would not recommend this book to beginners to fantasy. The plot takes a while to connect everything to the central story and the surprise elements are minimal. But overall, the author has delivered a compelling Norse-inspired story set in a well-crafted world with excellent characters. I'm rating the book a score of 8.5 out of 10. I am eager to see the aftermath of that explosive conclusion. What are your thoughts on The Shadow of the Gods? Who is your favorite character? Let's discuss in the comments below. Do subscribe to keep supporting this channel. I'll be back with the next video soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.